Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's Friday the 2nd of December. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10 Twitter handle. You know that by now. And I'm joined today, once again, the three amigos. We assembled, and I'm joined by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW and Aidan McDonald at Aidan C. McDonald, their Twitter handles. Guys, how we doing on this fine Friday morning?
Not bad, Tony. Buzzing 4 Celts in the last 8 again, last 16 of the
Yes, indeed.
World Cup.
Aidan, yourself, all good?
Yeah, no, I'm good, Tony. I'm somewhat as Sean. It was good to see the Celtic boys doing well over the last few days.
We'll come to that. We'll just do the housekeeping first and foremost. Our ticker tape running along the bottom. We always give you a deal, guys. You know the drill. You know what I'm going to say. You can join us in the Celtic Way by subscribing. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Got a deal on for you. Festive deal. Merry Christmas deal this month. You can get 25% off the annual subscription rate of £26. And also, if you sign up, you can have access to everything we write on the website. £1 for 2 months of full access. Can't say fairer than that, guys. We've always got deals for you. And all you have to do is hit that wonderful subscribe button to join us. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Guys, what a deal that is.
Definitely is, Tony. Aye, yep. Happy Christmas, everyone.
Indeed. Now, there might be 3 of us here, Aidan, but then there were 4 in the last 16 of the World Cup. 4 Celtic players go off and represent their country. 4 Celtic players in the knockout stages. Coincidence or what? These guys are used to winning, aren't they? They like a bit of winning. Done all right, every one of them, haven't they? Cameron Carter-Vickers, Dyson Maeda, Aaron Moy, and who's the other one? Sorry, I've just had a Josip Juranovic, indeed. Memory blank there. There you have it. It happens, old age. But we salute them, applaud them, and give it bow to them. Aidan, that's some return, isn't it, for the Celtic contingent?
You know, it's superb, but probably at the start, most people would have thought Juranovic maybe had a decent chance of getting through, but outside of that, it was probably going to be quite difficult, maybe potentially Carter-Vickers. But the fact that Japan got through, and in particular, was sensational, and obviously Australia, we've covered that, obviously, and I did a bit of today's newsletter on that, which gives you a bit more detail on Aaron Moy's Australia and how Ange was inspiration for a lot of those players a few years ago, with his speech that went viral from a Celtic fan's point of view before the World Cup final last year. So, all the players have done brilliant, and there's been some real sort of giant killings in there that Celtic players have been involved in, which is what you want at these tournaments when you've not really got a vested interest, because if you're going into it too much, obviously Scotland didn't make it. So I just wanted to see the Celtic players doing well. But yeah, no, the World Cup's been a real positive from a Celtic players' point of view, and we've seen a few commenters mentioning it there. I'm sure we'll discuss it a wee bit more, but Juranovic is now coming up against them either, so Celtic will have at least one player in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, which in 2022 isn't bad, to be fair.
Sean, that has kept the Celtic supporters going a wee bit in the World Cup, whatever your take on it and the venue and all that, or where it's been held. But that's been the vested interest back home for all the Celtic supporters, isn't it? The contingent that are representing the club and doing very, very well.
And getting them an extra wee bit of cash as well.
Right, Sean, yes.
I'll try and put the link up, but it's
all
superb,
helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it nets them another wee bit of cash into the bargain. If Olivier and Cham gets through with Cameroon later, that's another couple of pennies as well, because Jeremy Frimpong's through with the Netherlands team as well, because it doesn't matter if you play, just if you're there. I'll shove in the link for that kind of the article I did before the tournament on how FIFA calculates the payments. It's quite convoluted, as you'd expect from FIFA, but they kind of divvy it up into thirds over the 2-year time frame before the tournament, and all clubs that a player has been registered with within the 2-year time frame, blocks of 3 who meet the criteria and apply for a payment get something. It's not as simple as, I think I'm seeing a few places saying, it's $10,000 a day per player, but it's not really. It's different. There's maximum amounts and stuff, and you're not entitled to the full 10 grand every day if you've not had him for the full 2 years before it and different things. So the article I done kind of tries my best anyway to break it down and explain it. But they're getting more money, which is the baseline here. It's more nuanced than that, than simply Celtic get 10 grand every day for all of them. But Well, every little helps, as you say. More to the point, you two, is our predictor that we did before the tournament. I think it's time to have a wee. Maybe there's some shifty eyes here. There's some shifty eyes here. Maybe have a wee check of that. Michael Duffin coming in, just a wee bit of praise for me there. That was a great article. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Predictions, aye. So, I mean, I'll start with myself. I'm not. You're looking nervous there. I'll start with myself. There's something about me tipping a top scorer. I tipped Aidan Maeda, remember? For Celtic top scorer, as a Celtic top scorer dark horse. Misses sitters consistently since I done that. Mere hours after we published this article, I've taken Benzema to win the Golden Boot, and he's injured, might not play at all in the tournament. But Tony, Belgium, Wales, Lukaku, shocker.
I went against the grain. It's too easy. My rationale was it's too easy to tip Argentina or Brazil. I could turn around and say every World Cup, Argentina or Brazil are going to win it. So
Belgium not ranked second in the world though, get into this?
I tried to think outside the box. Didn't realise Lukaku was going to be injured. You know what I mean? So I've still got Vinicius Junior to come good in the knockout stages, and he'll score a hat-trick against somebody. I'm convinced of that. Harry Kane's not scored yet, so I think he's been a flop. So I'm
David Ferguson's laughing at you, Tony.
That's fine. Listen, that's what predictions are. You can laugh at predictions. That's fine. As I say, I try to think outside the box. It's no real font of football knowledge and wisdom to tip Messi or Argentina to win the World Cup, or to tip Neymar or Brazil to win it.
He's just taking shots.
Everybody can do that. You know what I mean? It's like, I would pick Argentina or Brazil to win the World Cup ad infinitum until.
On this occasion, you didn't. You picked Belgium in the group stages.
Yeah, fine.
Aidan, how are yours sitting, do you think? I see you've picked Denmark, another group stage exit. You also picked Brazil as the biggest flop, which kind of flies in the face of Tony's logic that it's easy to pick things. But we're actually going for an individual for flop. But you decided to go with a team, Aidan, and it's not really working out, I suppose, so far, because Brazil are through. They're not looking, I mean, they look all right, and Neymar's injured, but they've still got through. And I don't think anybody's really tipping them to get out in this round, do they?
Is anybody looking great, though, Sean? Some teams have had their moments, but nobody's really sparked into life yet. This is usually when teams start sparking into life when get to the serious knockout stuff. So
Belgium won't be sparking into life, but Tony.
Yeah, that's very true. Fabrique Belgique, that's fine. No worries. Aidan, you've still to pick 11s for Celtic in the future. So
that's true.
I will we'll reserve judgment on that when you get a 6 or a 7 at 11, right? You know what I mean? So
that's good for me, Tony.
Admit,
that's good for you, to be fair.
I'm pretty glad that none of these have already went. Why did you pick Ronaldo with the biggest flop? Partially, it was to wind my pal up, right, who's a massive Ronaldo fan. Will not hear a word against him. But mostly because I thought, like you, Tony, I'll go a wee bit out with the grain with this one and just see what group do I think is an underrated group of death. And I looked at the Portugal one and I thought Uruguay, I thought would be better, South Korea and Ghana. And I thought Portugal should be among the favourites. But if that Ronaldo interview has distracted them in any way, if it's upset the apple cart in any way, you just never know, because that's 3 strong teams in that group. It's not worked out like that. So egg on my face with that one.
See, mine was, I just wanted to go totally against the grain and conventional thinking, and I try to think outside the box. You
and took the world number 2 ranked team, top European ranked team.
You stand or fall by these decisions, and clearly I have fallen. if you're a Grand National entrant, you've fallen at the first. So yeah. You can't get it right all the time.
The bottom one, if you look at it, we're all still in with a shout, because it turns out they're all there. I'm looking particularly at myself and Aidan, though, because they go up against each other directly, don't they? Maeda and Juranovic. Tony, you're the tiebreaker here. What one of you do you think's getting one through?
That's a bit of a question. That's no. Well, Japan got through last night. Somewhat controversial. Is that?
Well, there's a couple of comments about that. And there's a couple of comments about that decision.
I had to laugh at the irony from England supporters saying that's payback for Frank Lampard's ball going over the line, right? Bearing in mind that Jeff Hurst is the only man in history to score a 2-goal hat-trick. right? So in 1966. So yeah, that I kind of laugh at that. You know, the bend of the ball was on the line. Stop. Yep. Listen, it's there you have it. Yeah, Brian Roberts gave me some advice as well. Don't do the lottery, Tony. Well, I tell you what, Brian, I'm quite a successful dude with football coupons. I've won a few corkers in my time. Got married in the back of one of them. There you have it. So, indeed, no. Listen, it's. I don't know what you thought yourself, guys, about that decision that put Japan through, but I think carrying luck like that, then Maida might be the man to advance, Sean, to the quarter final in Japan because
I'll say it was skill. Maida's leg was distracting them all over the side. Nah, I tipped Maida. Partially tongue-in-cheek saying, well, they must have some team if they didn't call up Kyogo and Hatate. But realistically, I looked at Spain and Germany and I thought, I don't trust them the way that I usually would at tournaments. Spain actually looked really good in the first couple of games. Last night, they had the ball, they didn't look that great. Germany have been off it and are obviously out at the group stages now. I noticed that none of us tipped any Germans or any Germany in any of these categories. So maybe it is with Maida, maybe the kind of the hot streaks with Maida, but I suppose from a Celtic point of view, at least one of them is getting into the quarterfinals of World Cup. And listen, I wouldn't put it past Carter Vickers to get there as well. Whether he starts against the Netherlands or not, I don't know. But I for one, have not been impressed by the Netherlands, despite I think they're kind of becoming a low-key favourite for some people. I've not saw a lot from them.
I think we'll be changing Aidan CCV to CCV 8 to CCV last 8.
Aye.
I think he's got a good chance of going through, to be fair. I agree with what Sean was saying. Netherlands, they've been okay in patches, but then even at the last Euros, they were all right in patches. I think they scored a few goals in one of their games. They ended up getting put out by the Czech Republic or something like that. So I think they can be okay in spells, but I don't think they've got the cohesion to be good across 90 minutes and go far in the tournament. So, yeah, Holland will be favourites for that match, but Carter Vickers and the USA have got a decent chance of going through, I think.
Let's be honest, can either of you pick a winner right now? Any of us pick a winner? It's been a bit unpredictable.
Well, mine and Aidan's is still running, so we can't really change. But I suppose you can jump if you want. Who are you picking?
With me?
Aye.
Do you know what?
Say Brazil, Tony. Please say Brazil.
I've been impressed with Brazil in patches. You know, I thought Richarlison's 2 goals were great in the first game, but after that, I don't see any national team setting the header alight so far. It might be different now that we've reached the knockouts and they realise it's last chance all the time and there's no coming back from a defeat. So
I actually think France have looked good in the first 2 games and then they rotated their whole team against Tunisia basically. And but I didn't expect them to come in. I thought maybe the Holders curse would strike. Despite the fact I took Benzema to be top scorer and stuff. So that was on the premise they got through.
I have been impressed with the Aussies' work rate. There's a touch of the Portugal, Greece 2004 Euros. So the Aussies get their noses.
That's a big shout.
Get their noses in front. Sorry, the Aussies get their noses in front and hold on to it, and then defend like Billy on. Greece weren't the great entertainers in that 2004 Euros, but they got a chance and scored, and then did what they needed to do, and they were set up to play that way. And I think the Aussies are like that as well. They're taking their chances few and far between when they come along, and then their defending's an art, and they've been very, very good at it. So I'm not saying they're going to win it, but that can carry far as well at times.
He obviously Aaron Moy being the only one that none of us picked to get furthest. But speaking of dark horses, Aidan will testify to this, right? I've taken Cameroon, but right up until an hour before it was hit publish or something, it was Senegal, and I actually had Senegal knocking England out in the last 16 to make the quarterfinals as well. But then Sadio Mane got injured, and I just went in and just changed it all and went, right, I'm going Cameroon instead. Cameroon could still get through tonight, but I'm beginning to regret bottling the Senegal shout, to be honest, because I think they've been not bad, and I think they will threaten England. Because as much as there's a few comments in here saying, hate to say it, lads, but I think England have a chance. Hate saying it, but England could win this. The Marquis coming in to save us here. England are too suspect at the back. What do you think, Aidan?
I think England have some very, very good players, as they always had. Particularly this time, Bellingham, I would put him in the world class bracket. I think he's absolutely
Already?
superb. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what Tony's thinking here. You can't. It's too early for that.
I understand he could get an injury or something like that, but I think if he stays fit, I think he will go on to be a really top player. They've also got other dangerous players, Saka, who's been in really good form this season. Even players like Harry Kane, they're always good for a goal. I think in terms of winning the tournament, I do agree with what the commenter said there. I think they are a bit suspect at the back. On paper, they've got really good defenders, with the exception of one that I'll not name, which you can probably work out. But I think across the board, the rest of them are pretty good. But I just think as a team, their manager is a bit too negative in the way he wants to play. I feel that he just sets up not to lose games.
Aye.
Which, when you've got that much talent, baffles me personally.
In defence of Mr. Maguire, who I presume you were talking about there, it
No
depends
comment.
what you're asking him to do. I think Man United's obviously a step too far from arguably England internationally. He's been good, but it depends what you're asking somebody to do. I remember when I was living up in Aberdeen, all Derek McInnes ever asked Scott McKenna to do was head the ball away and kick it away. So when he was, I think on occasion, he was asked to play in a Scotland back three and kind of left centre back when Kieran Tierney was out. Now that's a whole different ballgame, what you're expected to do at that stage, and you're not going to look good if you're used to just heading it and kicking it. So I think it's a similar thing with Big Maguire. If you're asking him to head it and kick it, he'll do it all day and he'll look good doing it. But when you're asking him to play it for the back, that's where he starts looking like Harry Maguire trying to play it for the back.
He was good. He was good in that last game, to be fair to him. He was probably their best player in that
the American
USA game.
Because he was asked to clear it.
Yeah, but I just think for the way England should want to play, I mean, they've got so much talent that shouldn't really be wanting to play out from the back. In my opinion,
I know. Evan Ferrier saying Senegal will beat England, Tony, and Big Red coming in here, Dublin, Belfast, Cork, and Senegal.
Just the spectre of England winning this tournament is enough to put the frighteners up every Scotsman. No, they do it every 4 years, don't they? They hype themselves up, or every 2 years for every major tournament. They hype themselves up, and you think at some point they're going to kick the door in, and you thought maybe last year at the Euros that they might do it. And
Italy, thankfully.
It drove you wild. And and it's always that nagging doubt in the back of your mind that regardless of how talented a team they have or how bad they are in defence or good they are up front, you always never rule out England, do you? You want to push it to the back of your mind, but it's always that. It's like your Anakin Skywalker Star Wars side that you don't want to confront, isn't it? The dark side, that you just know that they've got a good chance.
I don't disagree with John here, Tony.
No, I don't either.
They had a group that I thought Wales were going to be better. You thought Wales were going to be better. Iran, for all they're ranked 20th, and I did say that they are a decent team. They're not quite as good as what 20th in the world would suggest. The USA were good against them, I thought.
The USA
got the better of that game, I kind of thought. They'll get into the round of 16, last 16, they'll play Senegal. Obviously, they're favourites for that. I think Senegal could worry them. As I say, I genuinely thought with Sadio Mane they could put them out.
Well,
but it's really the next round they'll start taking in the real big hitters, and that's when you'll see how good they are.
Correct, yeah, of course. But you can never discount them because they've got some wonderfully talented players, as Aidan said there about Jude Bellingham, world class. I'll reserve judgment on that, as you rightfully said, Sean. But you were talking about Harry Maguire kicking and heading the ball. And it was a nice wee segue into the next topic that we did on the Celtic Way. The SFA brought out their guidelines, Sean, earlier this week about the 24-hour before and after rule, a day before and a day after a football match for Scottish clubs and players not heading the ball at training and taking part in heading drills. So we conducted our own wee kind of case study on it, didn't we? And the link's on the website there. I think you put it up. Spoke to a doctor based in LA. We were given all the kind of SFA information, and the PFA Scotland, who canvassed their players and said 64% of them were in favour of not taking part,
restrictions. Yep,
restriction on heading. We also spoke to Peter Grant and Stephen Presley, who had both had varying opinions on it, and it's a decent read if you want to read it and go into the nitty gritty of it, and it's I don't know about you, Sean, but heading's just an integral part of football, and I don't know how you can police something like that. And
well, that's the practicality thing that Peter Grant in particular was talking about, wasn't it? The kind of concept of fine, introduce restrictions, but who checks that every single club, because it's all adult footballers, remember? So who's checking every single club isn't doing it 24 hours before a game? And then who's to say that clubs that identify in that kind of punt and rush kind of style, who will want to practice set pieces that they head in and will want to practice the art of defending or finishing with your head, all that kind of stuff, who's to say they won't double up 48 hours before it just to get that extra practice in? And individuals might even go, as Stephen Presley said. So there's the practicality aspect of it. The doctor that you spoke to, a specialist, I found it really interesting what he was saying, actually. He was expanding on what the SFA had said the logic was in the study. He expanded on it greatly. I thought it really kind of helped me understand it a wee bit better. Broke it down into kind of details or terms that I could kind of understand about why they're doing it. And he did say that the science isn't definitive, I think is the word that he used.
Yeah, he did use
it in this direction, and basically you'd be a fool to totally ignore it. But he himself did say that there is no future he envisions where it's just outlawed from the game. But setting down these rules is a starting point to try and get a happy balance between not taking out the game, but certainly decreasing the likelihood of it's decreasing the amount that you're heading out with game situations, so that the cumulative effect helps people later in life and all that. And I know there's still different opinions, and definitely read that piece because it's interesting. But it's certainly the doctor's parts anyway.
Yeah, I agreed with him.
Understand it a wee bit better.
I agreed with him in the sense it's a brilliant starting point, Sean, and he was applauding the SFA for saying that. Now, Aidan, I was being tongue in cheek and asking, how do you police this? Do you get like vans going around every Scottish club, like the TV licence vans, saying you're practicing heading, you're getting fined, or you're getting
subcontract the community wardens? Just let them go down.
You know, I've just come up with a business plan there, haven't I, guys? You get the van and we go around all the Scottish clubs and make sure that they're not practicing heading 24 hours before a game. But you know, that was me joshing. But you are going to have to try and regulate this in some way, and I think the practicalities, as Peter Grant and Stephen Presley spoke about it, and Sean was talking about there, it's hard to administer that, is it not?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. It's hard to break like the habits of a lifetime in terms of coaching and the way players are going to act. And I doubt a lot of them would be doing it out of any sort of badness. It's just the way they'd be used to training. So how are they going to police it? The only way they're going to have to try and do it is hope that individuals at the clubs, etc., are enforcing it in coaching sessions. Coaches, are building it into their sessions. Taking out of their sessions, I should say, and putting other aspects in to try and replicate it, which I know is quite difficult. Overall, I think we'd all agree that that is sort of a good policy. Anything that can sort of protect the players with everything you're seeing coming out about the dangers of heading the ball, etc. So, in terms of the actual practicalities, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be up to individual clubs, isn't it? I don't think the SFA is going to be sending somebody to sit and watch every single training session of every single team in Scotland. But
Peter Grant's thoughts were interesting, weren't they, Sean?
I like this, Paul Byrne. Is it guidance or is it law, though? Ask Matt Hancock, guy. Fair play. Sorry, what were you saying, Tony?
I'm saying Peter Grant's thoughts were interesting, weren't they, on what professional footballers were doing, having been a professional footballer himself and having worked with them as a coach and a manager. I won't spoil it. I'll let you read it and let you know what you think.
No, they were. And, I mean, that's kind of why you proposed Peter Grant as an option, because not only has he recently been a coach at a senior club in Scotland, but also obviously his playing career spanned decades, so can kind of see it for both points of view. He was, I don't want to spoil what he was actually saying, but needless to say, his issue wasn't necessarily with the science, because he says he's not a scientist. He's happy to go with the science in terms of introducing something. He was just more concerned with the practicality aspect. not even necessarily how's it going to be policed, but more club to club.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Training schedules? Are they going to double up? Are individuals going to need? You're going to just decide to go and do it because there will be some players that will go, "I no bother." 64% the PFA Scotland respondents said yes, they're in favour of it, but that means 36 weren't. So are some of those 36 going to think, right, well, and I feel I need to work on my head and more than what I'm being allowed to do with my club? Am I going to go and do it separately, even though I'm not allowed? That's kind of what I felt Peter Grant was getting at with you. So I think it's a very interesting article. The link's in the comments, and I'd encourage you to read it, if for nothing else, just to read about the kind of the different views of the debate. But the restrictions are there. That's them there. So
Stephen Presley was more a black and white situation, wasn't he?
He just doesn't. He basically went as far to say to you he wouldn't have had a career if he couldn't practice heading. Basically, is kind of what he was getting at, which I think is doing himself a bit of a disservice. I don't think he was that bad with the ball at his feet, actually, considering given his reputation. I still think he was decent with the ball at his feet, and he could take a penalty for what I remember. But I get where he's coming from in terms of a certain type of player might not be able to refine their skills as much as what they could. So.
Again, I went to him because he's recently quit his playing days and has become a young manager. So I wanted to get their thoughts, because their career straddled a lot of years, and then their management career has also straddled a lot of years as well. So I wanted to sort of see where they were coming from in terms of being a player and a coach, Aidan, to see if maybe their point of view had changed from their playing career to their managerial career now.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, having somebody who's recently just been in the game as a coach who would have been setting up sessions, I'm sure some of them were based around the heading. So it was obviously a good insight to have that. And you can completely understand, like, without spoiling it too much, the sort of point of view like Peter Grant was taking on it, because it is going to be difficult for coaches to not take it completely out of their sessions, but to adapt in that way when through their playing days, if they're a young coach through their playing days, this was never something anybody had to consider. And if you're a more experienced coach, say you've been coaching 10, 15 years, it's never something you've had to factor in. So it is going to change, but hopefully it's one of those things eventually people will just adapt over time and it just kind of becomes a bit of a non-issue. That's the hope, obviously. But
Tony, I put this up before just to draw attention to David Ferguson referencing something I says after the Blackburn game earlier in pre-season, saying he's still banking on Matt O'Reilly getting an assist with a through ball header. And then he says later on in the comments, it's a pity you can't get specific odds for an headed assist, because I'd have backed that as well. I'd have put that on. This will become my new Carl Starfelt goal, Tony.
Brown Warrior, retro comment here. If you ever mistimed the header of a rock solid mitre multiplex in a frozen pitch, you'll know this makes sense, Tony. Oh yes, I did that. I was that soldier, as a famous man once said. Wink Martin.
Tony there, Michael's getting you a wee bit of praise for your article as well there.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you, Michael.
Indeed,
appreciate that. That's good. Well, at least somebody's read it, Sean. I'm chuffed at that. I mean, yeah. But no, I think it's straddling that fine line between understanding the science, because at the end of the day, health and safety is at the crux here, and prolonging lives. And the guys, the football players and managers understand that if someone's lost a loved one or a family member through heading the ball excessively and being exposed to that, then they have every sympathy. But as you say, that as the doctor said, it's that starting point where we have to have the conversation, because the science, whilst it's not definitive, it's pointing to it, isn't it? And we have to protect. We have to protect footballers as well at all times.
Sometimes, like with the concussion protocol things that I mentioned the other day, sometimes it's about protecting them from themselves as well, as much as anything else. And I think that's at the crux of this, the studies and the reason that they're implementing it, to try and almost save them from themselves. Because as talking to Stephen Presley and Peter Grant tells you, some of the knee-jerk reactions will be, nah, I need to do it anyway, that kind of thing. And if there's kind of club restrictions in, then it kind of helps maybe shuffle them towards doing it at least less, that kind of thing. But I suppose in terms of governance, we're not really moving away from the SFA now, are we, Tony? Although we're moving away from the heading restrictions.
Go on then, throw it up, come on.
I will just say the word VAR, Tony. VAR.
Aidan, does that give you the shakes? Do you start to kind of your eye twitch like Herbert Lom in the Pink Panther films when VAR's mentioned. I know it does with me now. You know, it's just every week, every waking moment of every football match, you're talking about VAR now, aren't you?
I know it's like the VAR podcast at this stage, isn't it? But it's we'll get into it, obviously.
And Ian Maxwell was in the news talking about it earlier this week, wasn't he, Sean?
Yep.
And he was commenting on saying that VAR was doing what it was brought in to do, and he also mentioned the offside with the Celtic Motherwell game, didn't he?
Yes, he did. I've got his comments here if you want some of them.
Go on, I knew you would have them.
He was asked about the Jota versus Motherwell one.
Yeah.
We all know what one I'm referencing, and his response was that was an interesting one because nobody is actually saying Jota wasn't offside or that the decision was wrong. The angle looks strange, but that doesn't really matter because fundamentally the decision was right, and that is what it's meant to do, right? So even ignoring the fact, Tony, this is me speaking now. This isn't his quote. Even ignoring the fact, you'll be able to tell it's me. Don't worry. Even ignoring the fact that he essentially, to me, seems to be saying there that he doesn't care about the process as long as he feels the decision is right in the end, which to me is a massive red flag for a guy in a senior position of authority, by the way. This very next sentence that he says tells me why he should care about the process that gets to the final decision a bit more, right? So he said there was an issue with the camera angle. It wasn't wide enough to capture the ball and the individual, so we had to use the camera at the other end of the pitch. Thankfully, the Hawkeye system saw it coming, and that's why both cameras are calibrated to deal with offsides the length of the pitch in case you get a technology failure or a human error. It just looked a bit strange, but the outcome was right. We got the right decision. So that's the third reason, Tony, Aidan, for not using the better position camera now that I've heard. Yeah, it wasn't on in one report.
Yep,
it was on but focused on the dugout in another. And now Ian Maxwell seems to be saying it just wasn't wide enough to capture what was needed anyway. All right.
They are flip-flopping around this issue because I think they realise that they made a backside of it and Jota was onside.
Right, but that's fine if that is what's happened.
And there's a camera angle that shows that, but they've not shown it. You know, there's a camera angle that shows that, and they're trying to cover it up for the fact that the decision has been made. But why not come out? I know retrospectively they can't award the goal, but why? What's the problem coming out and saying, well, actually, that was wrong. That's an instance where VAR got it wrong. And Jota's
it's not even the thing is
it didn't affect the outcome of the game.
But that's neither here nor there. I know.
No, that's not neither here nor there. But I think that's got them out of a big hole here.
The saying VAR got it wrong is just step one. The other thing is to just say, look, listen, the technology, whether it was the dugout it was on, whether it wasn't wide enough, or whether it wasn't on at all, you just say, listen, tell the referee you're going to need to go with whatever you think on the field because we've not got it for you. That's all you had to. That's all you've got to do. That is all you've got to do at that point. So to me, I agree with you, Aidan. I don't know what you think. I think that sounds like flip-flopping quite a bit to me. But you listen to this, and Aidan, I'll come to you with it. But you listen to this, and you begin to see. Well, at least I begin to see why fans of all clubs. Obviously, we're focused on Celtic here and a Celtic incident, but I'm sure fans of all clubs would probably agree with this. That they need to know the process a wee bit more and need to be essentially walked through why a decision has been taken. The mixed messages from people like Ian Maxwell, dismissive attitude is the only way I can put it, a dismissive attitude, like, well, we think we got it right in the end, so what does it matter how we got there, type of nonsense, does not help build trust in either the system or the people operating it, Aidan.
No, it doesn't at all. You're completely right, Sean. And firstly, in terms of Maxwell's comments, I think it's bizarre, really, from a person in a senior position like that. Baffles me why he thought that was the right thing to say. But anyway, enough said about that. Better. In terms of the overall VAR thing, there's got to be more stuff like made clear for why decisions are being made, whether it's getting feed through when you're watching it on telly, etc. Or we've also discussed it before, which we know won't happen, but if there's a mistake or something that doesn't seem clear to fans of all teams, the officials, or whether it's the VAR officials, excuse me, the referees or somebody in a senior position should be coming out and explaining it.
As I say, the NBA, the 2-minute report at the end, if there's a potential game-changing or game-altering kind of decision, the 2-minute report considers it, asks them to explain it. Put it this way, it shouldn't be up to Dermot Gallagher on Sky whether they pick that up and you get a wee review of it. there should be some sort of, and I know I says, Tony, when you brought it up, well, it's not going to happen, and it's not going to happen. Referees in general are a protected species in that manner, but that's not to say it shouldn't. So,
but that's been my stance from day one, that these incidents should be explained, and they should be explained on screen to the people in the stadium. First and foremost, and then obviously the people watching at home, because if it's a high-profile game, it's going to be on live anyway. So,
do you remember the Abada offside? Right?
Yeah.
Now,
Tynecastle.
I said at the time to use that the presumption that I made was that the television cameras didn't put the VAR line through on the live feed, but that the VAR officials would have seen it, and that's what they'd have based it on, right? And that's fine, and as far as I'm aware, that is what happened. But one, it should be a given that they do put it into the live feed. Fans of all clubs want to see that, right? They do want to see it. But more than that, as an overarching kind of way to go about it, they cannot surely have failed to consider the landscape in which they're operating when they decided to introduce this technology with current refereeing standards and general doubt about the standards of refereeing in Scotland by fans of all clubs, right? So that's the landscape in which you're introducing it. So to me, building that trust should have been right up in that agenda. More transparency, making a point of offering as much clarity as possible should have been right up there on the agenda when you're introducing it. The same level of agenda as the cameras themselves. But I suppose, I mean, there are none so blind as those who will not see.
It's not just Scotland that it's affecting, though. Germany have gone out the World Cup with.
That was in, so.
yeah, but
at least they explained that.
For ages, you didn't have a conclusive picture of it, Sean.
Yeah.
This is where you come in with the trust thing. I
mean, I get that, but the trust is a big thing, and transparency and clarity is what you were told it would bring. It's brought up more fog than anything, Aidan, I would have thought.
Yeah, it's just some of the coverage of it is just baffles me, really, to be honest. It's definitely an issue that's got to get resolved soon, because it's just going to continue to build mistrust in the technology. And you want Scottish football to be progressive and bring in technology. And the fact is that if it's going to be the people that are in charge of it, or the people that are fronting it up, or coming out with comments like Ian Maxwell's, or TV stations or paying customers aren't able to see things properly, not because, well, in the Jota one there probably wasn't a better angle, but in some cases there is a better angle, but it's just not shown for whatever reason. Things like that just completely are undermining what the sort of positives should be of VAR to an extent.
There was, of course, Tony, a VAR kind of exhibition thing the other day. We did not get an invite, so maybe they should extend it to all media outlets in future. But because maybe there is an acceptable explanation.
Yeah.
And I mean, without going too far, this obviously isn't a conspiracy, because the World Cup has been absolutely chaotic in its use of VAR as well, by all accounts. But nonetheless, Ian Maxwell's comments, we actually meant to get to them yesterday, Tony, didn't we? But we ended up going on and on and on yesterday, so we decided to just move it to today. But yet another day where we've ended up talking about VAR, even though there's no Scottish football on. But
David Ferguson says the whole point of VAR is to obtain correct decisions and entertain. It's doing neither. We'll leave VAR there, but what I will say is, if you want entertainment, Sean.
I like it.
There you go. That's entertainment in a jam Paul Weller style. You've got to tune into this, guys. Celtic Way, sit down with Martin O'Neill. Sean and myself conducted that the other day, and honestly, it's arguably one of the best hours I've had in my journalistic career. Sean, would you agree with that?
Tony, when I took this job, I says to them, I will do everything in my power to bring some success to this podcast. Listen, what a guest, what a man, what a conversation. As anyone who follows us on Twitter will know, we announced this in advance the other day, partially to give you a heads up about Martin's book signing in Glasgow yesterday, but also just so you knew to set your reminders. It's Sunday at noon on the YouTube channel that it will go live, and on the website. There'll be accompanying big interview on his time at Celtic, as well as an assortment of other wee stories, because you know what we're like. We like to go I think my wife calls it being extra. We like to go the full hog with all these things. I thoroughly enjoyed it, Tony, didn't we? Although
it was just wonderful company, as I thought he would be, and he told us he would give us 40 minutes, and he stayed for about an hour-ish, didn't he, Sean? So that
over
was,
an hour we've got, Tony. Yeah,
Yeah.
over an hour of a sit-down with the great man, Martin O'Neill. And I must say, right, although we are obviously Celtic-focused here, we're also football fans, so the sit-down isn't just about Celtic, is it? We talk a bit about his roots,
Yep.
including the influence of a sport I, for one, think is superb in Gaelic football. We talk
Mhm.
about Nigel Clough. We talk about Brian Clough.
Yeah.
That's the first time that's ever happened, Tony, I think. We talk about Brian Clough in Nottingham Forest. We talk about Aston Villa. Talk about Sunderland. He tells us a wee bit about his really remarkable 2 pieces of international football history in Ireland. Look, I'll really look forward to you guys watching it and letting us know if you enjoy it on Sunday.
Talks about Northern Ireland against Spain '82,
Yep.
Jerry Armstrong, and throughout it, he just peppers it with wee funny anecdotal stories, going off piece, doesn't he? And then coming back to topic. But he's just thoroughly engaging, brilliant company, and I think you guys will enjoy it if you're regular visitors to the podcast. You'll love it. It's just a brilliant piece of
Sunday noon. Aidan, you get your reminder set?
Of course, I've got my reminder set, Sean. Of course.
Tony, I'm just going to put this up. Kaiser asked, does Martin speak of Ange? Now, we discussed this before. We made a conscious effort not to let it fall into talking about Ange Postecoglou because, one, we felt it would maybe do the fact that with Martin O'Neill sitting in front of us for an hour a bit of a disservice to then ask him about someone else doing the job he used to do, but also because he's been asked about Ange plenty, Tony. So no, we don't talk about Ange Postecoglou with him, but there's plenty of people that will talk to Ange about talk about him with Ange, I'm sure, and he's been asked plenty of times about that. We try to go down all like the Celtic route, but other kind of things as well. Talks about superstitions he had while he was a Celtic manager. He tells us why his daughter wasn't happy that Bobo Baldi was getting praise in his book, Tony. Tells us where the name of his book come from, and then all the Celtic stuff as well as the other stuff, Nottingham Forest, Brian Clough, GA, all that kind of stuff. So
great Lubo anecdote as well, wasn't there?
Yes.
All there, guys. It's just we covered a myriad of topics in an hour, as you would expect when you have a guest like that, and a wonderful guest and a top class guest. You put them in the highest bracket of guests that we've had on.
Oh, without a doubt.
He enjoyed it. The fact that he stayed for an hour hinted to us that he was enjoying it, and I think he would have stayed longer, but he's currently doing the rounds in the tour.
On the book tour,
we can't thank him enough. We can't thank Bobby who arranged it as well, Sean.
Yep. Bobby and Jane from his rep team. Yep.
His reps, yeah. And they were very kind. They kept in touch with us the whole time and said, "Yep, you'll gladly do it." And they were spot on. They came through with we came good on their promise. And as I say, it was just one of the most enjoyable hours I've ever had in my career. Just to pick the brain of somebody who I think most Celtic supporters hold in the highest esteem and in the highest regard.
Well, you all put it this way: you always remember the team growing up, didn't you? And his team is my team growing up. His team is my team. So for me, I still have him as second to Jock Stein myself. I don't know about yourself, but I suppose Aidan, you would maybe argue for Brodge, Brendan Rodgers maybe, and I think you could make the argument for that. Neil Lennon in terms of overall trophies, I know it gets soured at the end, but for me, Martin O'Neill is second to Jock Stein for Celtic. Willie Maley, I suppose, actually, now I'm thinking Willie Maley's maybe up there as well, but
and surprisingly, he get a mention in dispatches, but Henrik Larsson wasn't spoken about too much because again he's covered that.
Aye.
But
he did tell us, Tony, remember about having dinner with Henrik Larsson and Chris Sutton during the Russia into the World Cup in Russia.
Yeah.
In the context of the two of them bringing something up, you all like it, but bringing something up from the Seville run that he himself couldn't really remember, but he liked the fact that it obviously made an impact on them and stuff. David Ferguson here mentions, Tony, he can't wait for it. Cheers, David. But he met Martin O'Neill and John Robertson at the Cliffburn Hotel in Arbroath in 2000. He was starstruck. John Robertson certainly gets a mention, as does Steve Walford. And there's plenty of wee things. Honestly, I really can't wait for you to see it, because I know a lot of you tune into these sit downs and tune in every day and stuff. So it's almost a wee bit of reward for you as well as it was for us.
And yes, he gets the big build up, and his first comment after the big build up was priceless, isn't it, Sean?
You could put your money on it. If you tune in regularly, you know Tony gave him the standard Tony big build up, and with Martin O'Neill, given how much he's done in his career, the build up must have lasted about half hour out of the hour. And it wasn't backwards and coming forwards at the end. It was it.
No, it's tremendous. It was really funny, and he's like that. He was full of witticisms, and he was engaging company, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Tune in on Sunday at noon.
Sunday at noon, and also remember on the website accompaniment pieces, big interviews, read different bits here and there. For instance, I asked him, was there an underrated player that he thinks doesn't get the credit from his time at Celtic and amongst all the big names and stuff? Some of you might be able to guess it. The only person I've told I asked this, he guessed it right away. So it might not surprise you, but it might surprise you as well. The length of the praise he goes to was brilliant. But there'll be plenty of other things. It's not just the video on Sunday. There's stuff on the website as well. So,
Aidan, you won't be disappointed. Promise.
I'm looking forward to it, lads. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and Michael McDonald, release it now. There you go. All good things come to those who wait, Michael. Promise. It's worth the watch. But guys, that's been 45 minutes of another wonderful pod.
Sorry, Aidan was still an embryo.
There you go. Aidan.
Shocking. Ageism.
Yeah. Shocking, that's shocking. That.
You know, nothing escapes them, Aidan, does it? Nothing escapes them. We all get it tight, and we all take our turn when it's our turn. We have to chew down on it and just take it. You know, it is what it is. But guys,
all character building, Tony. All character building.
Correct, Mundo. Character building, indeed. But there you have it, guys. That's been, as I say, over 45 minutes. Brilliant. Love that today. Excellent stuff. I direct you once again to the ticker tape running along the bottom. It's our December deal, Merry Christmas deal. And if you subscribe, you can get 25% off the yearly subscription rate of £26. Or if you subscribe alternatively, it's £1 for 2 months of full access to everything that we write on the pod. And that's everything. All your statistical and data analysis from StatsBomb, your big interviews, your in-depth, in-depth stats and all that, and as well as big sit-down interviews with the likes of Martin O'Neill. It's all there. Something for everybody, Aidan, isn't there?
Yeah, no, there's a diverse coverage from across all areas, as you mentioned there, Tony. Yeah. Tactics, scouting, then if that's maybe not your bag, interviews, etc. Plenty of features as well. So, yeah, get yourself involved if you've not already subscribed.
And all you have to do is hit the button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. We thank you to all you guys that have done that already. We thank you to all the guys that took advantage of the Black Friday offer as well. Couldn't do it without you. We just see from the amount of comments that come into the comment section, we try and flick up as many as possible. Sean's got the buttons on that. He's always trigger happy with that and that, right, Sean? But we enjoy the toing and froing, don't we? And the interaction. Yep. It's just wonderful to wake up every day knowing that you're starting your day off like this and talking about Celtic. And it never stops, even though the football stopped. We've still got stuff to talk about, haven't we?
Unfortunately, one of those is VAR, but apart from that, yep. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the subscribers, really, genuinely, from the bottom of our hearts, we do. Aidan, cheers. Tony, cheers. And everybody else, cheers.
And guys, Sunday noon, high noon,
that's it.
not to be missed.